Well, this is Steve Ridgel, and here's a shout out to all the dads. Sunday's Father's Day, and we typically love to celebrate dads, and that's when dads get a tie, which nobody really wears anymore, and that's when dads get to celebrate a meal that they probably cook out on the grill. And you know what? Dads love that, and that's okay. It's a time when everybody's committed to laugh at your dad jokes, and so. But you know, I'm a believer, and I know a lot of you that watch this are Christians, and so I want to say a word to the Christian dads. Or those of you that maybe aren't really living your faith, but you kind of wish you were. Because here's the thing about being a dad to your kids. All the athletic accomplishments, those are great, and all the hours throwing and catching and working and shooting and rebounding for them and cheering them on and carrying them to games, all of that's great. And if that goes all the way through high school, that's great. And if it goes into college, wow. And for the 1 out of 10,000 dads whose kid may actually play in college, good for you. But those are all going to pass at some point. And boy, for the academic, all the staying up at night and the trying to figure out math that you don't understand and trying to find something on the internet for their paper that's due. And boy, good for you. And you know, academics are great, but at some point that won't really be the driving thing. But here's what most dads who kind of, sort of, or passionately believe in Jesus. You want your kids to grow up and have faith because that's what's going to sustain them through this life. And when you're gone, that's the thing that you know will help them mold their family someday. And that's the way you guarantee you're all going to be together forever. So here are 3 quick things that I'm going to tell you every dad ought to be doing. Some of you are doing it, and if you are, I salute you. Keep it up. And if you're not doing these 3 things, I'd encourage you just to start. Number 1, hug your kids. Every one of them, they need a hug. I don't care how old they are. I'm 70. My grown kids are 46 and 44. I guess now they're 46 and 44. And you know what? I get thrilled when we still hug each other every time we see each other. And one of them lives in town, and we see her often and still hug her every time we see her. You never get too old to hug your kids. It says, I love you, and I'm proud of you, and I'm with you, and I support you. So hug your kids. Always hug your kids. And if you're not a hugger, start. I may be awkward, but boy, there's nothing as important as the touch of a father who loves their kids. Number 2, pray for your kids every day. Now, if you're in a position where you can, pray over your kids. Man, I used to pray with my kids every night, even if I had to wait up for them and I was asleep, and my daughter always used to wake me up and tell me she was home, and by the time I got awake, she was sometimes in bed, and I'd go in and pray over it. If they went to sleep first, I prayed over them, prayed with them. Still pray every day for each one of my kids and my grandkids by name and specifically. Pray every day for your kids. It changes everything because God can do things in their life that you can't do. So, man, pray for your kids every day. And let them know it if you want to. And number 3, I'm just going to tell you, take your kids to church. Well, if your kids are grown, you start going to church and be an example for them. Now, I know there's a lot of problems at churches. I mean, I live in Abilene, Texas. There's a gazillion churches, and some of them, I think, have some issues really with helping people find Jesus. But you know what? Most churches are going to talk about Jesus and living for him and doing better. And there's something about worshiping with a group of people praising God, and something about having accountability by being with people, and something about your kids seeing other families that have kids. Or even if you don't have a lot of kids in the church you go to, there's something about seeing generations of faith before them. If you don't go to church regularly, start. If your kids say, I don't want to go, you start anyhow. If they're young enough, you tell them, nope, this is what our family does. And you do it. Now, if you don't want to go to church, don't get upset when your kids don't go. And if you don't take them to church, don't get mad when your kids grow up and they don't go. And if you didn't take them and they don't go now, start. And when they say, what's the big church deal? Tell them it's because you want to live your faith more actively. So do those 3 things for your kids. I don't care if they're 6 months old or if they're 60. You hug your kid, you pray for your kid, and you take your kid to church. This is Steve Ridgel, and I'm going to tell my kiddos, love you guys. Thanks for being mine.